4,000 miles through the most dangerous jungle on Earth, on foot. No one had ever done it. Most experts said no one ever could. He was threatened with death more times than he could count. He nearly starved. He was hunted by men with guns. And he did it anyway. This is the true story of the only person to ever walk the entire length of the Amazon River. Welcome back to Landmark Legacy, where every monument has a story it never told. 2007. A former British Army captain named Ed Stafford was searching for his next expedition. He typed a simple question into Google. Has anyone ever walked the entire length of the Amazon River? The answer stopped him cold. No, not once, not ever. In all of recorded history, people had kayaked it, people had flown over it, but 4,000 miles of solid jungle, swamp, and riverbank on foot had never been attempted. Explorers who knew the region called the idea reckless. Some called it suicidal. The Amazon wasn't just a river. It was the largest rainforest on the planet, home to anacondas, jaguars, venomous snakes, and remote tribes who had killed outsiders before. Ed didn't care. On April 2nd, 2008, he stepped onto a freezing mountainside in the Peruvian Andes, at the exact spot where the Amazon's very first trickle of water begins. And he started walking. The early months were brutal. Ed started the journey with a fellow Brit by his side, but the partnership fell apart within months. His companion quit and went home. Ed kept walking, alone. Some days the jungle was so thick he could only cover 4 miles in an entire day. He crossed rivers, swamps, and flooded forest with a machete in hand, cutting every step of the way through vegetation that had never felt a human footprint. Fire ants, pit vipers, electric eels hiding in the water. And then something even more dangerous. People. Deep in the rainforest, Ed and his small team ran into hostile locals who mistook them for drug traffickers. Some accused them of being killers. At one point, he was held at gunpoint. At another, surrounded by men holding machetes to his throat. He later said he'd been told, calmly and directly, that he was going to be killed. More than once. Just when the expedition seemed impossible to continue alone, Ed met a Peruvian forestry worker named Gadiel Sanchez Rivera. Everyone called him Cho. Cho knew the jungle in a way no map ever could. He could read the river. He could find food where Ed saw nothing but green. The two men formed a partnership that would carry them through the next 2 years. They ate whatever the jungle gave them. On the worst days, that meant a tortoise cooked over an open fire, split between 2 exhausted men. Their GPS broke deep in the rainforest, leaving them to navigate hundreds of miles using nothing but instinct and the position of the sun. They insisted on one strict rule for the entire expedition. Every single river crossing had to be made straight across, never diagonally with the current. Because if they let the river carry them even slightly, it wouldn't be a true walk anymore. It had to be entirely human-powered, every mile, every step. The jungle didn't just test their courage, it attacked their bodies. Ed contracted a parasite that burrowed under his skin, near his scalp, growing beneath the surface for weeks. It was a botfly larva, quietly feeding on him from the inside. He battled exhaustion, malnutrition, and the constant risk of tropical diseases like dengue and yellow fever out here, hundreds of miles from the nearest hospital. There were stretches without any food resupply at all, just whatever they could catch, forage, or go without. Every single day for over 2 years, the two men had one job: wake up, walk, survive, repeat. Most people who start ultra-endurance expeditions like this quit within the first few months. Ed and Cho kept walking for 860 days straight. After 2.5 years, after nearly 3,000 days of walking, danger, and near starvation, the ocean was finally close. Then, just 53 miles from the finish line, Ed collapsed on the side of the road. His body had simply run out. After everything he had survived, the jungle, the death threats, the parasites, the hunger, it was exhaustion this close to the end that almost stopped him. He rested for a few hours. Then he stood back up, and he kept walking. August 9th, 2010. 860 days after stepping onto that freezing Andes mountainside, Ed Stafford ran onto Crispim Beach in Brazil and straight into the Atlantic Ocean. Beside him, Cho ran into the waves too. It was the first time in his entire life Cho had ever seen the ocean. Together, they had walked over 4,000 miles, crossed a continent at its widest point, survived threats, hunger, parasites, and total exhaustion. No one had ever walked the length of the Amazon River before. No one has done it since. Ed Stafford didn't just prove that it was possible, he proved something bigger: that the wildest, most dangerous places on Earth can still be crossed, one determined step at a time. If this story moved you, hit subscribe, because at Landmark Legacy, every episode uncovers a story of what people are truly capable of.